Stephen, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thanks for joining me. Stephen, for people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an introduction, please?
Yeah, so I co-founded Multisig Labs with my partner Johnny Galt, and then notably about 2.5 years ago, we started working at the Avalanche ecosystem to create a staking protocol called Gogopool, who now runs about 33% of the validator nodes on the Avalanche network, has over $40 million in TVL, and its entire mission and express intent is to help bootstrap the validator sets for new L1 blockchain deployments.
Nice. Sounds exciting. And I've got a bunch of questions to ask you about that in just a sec. But could you take us back to the very start of your career and talk us through the journey that's led you to this point?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been in entrepreneurship since high school, and then during college was kind of the big decision of do I go into academia or do I, really go for it, go make startups. So then through college, I was in applied math and then did a ton of computer science, a ton of computer engineering. So definitely classically trained as a developer. And then through that experience in college, got exposed to a whole startup scene, went to these coding competitions around the US called hackathons. And that's where I got my first kind of like angel check, actually. It was at the end of the last hackathon. So that sort of inspired me and my buddy at the time. We're like, all right, let's fucking go for it. So we raised a small angel round, bootstrapped a startup for 3 years, doing AI video interviewing tooling for really large HR companies and staffing agencies. And then from there got into crypto because we were always really obsessed with open source code, always represented kind of like the true essence of like enterprise and entrepreneurship, opportunity. So Web3, we were pivoting that first startup into this AI video editing tooling for content creators. We wanted to create new business models using blockchain. Through that was applying to Y Combinator, and then through the YC application process, really went down the rabbit hole of blockchain and what it means. And we discovered, holy shit, this is one big open source kind of conglomerate. There's a bunch of open source code that can Lego block into each other and can all interoperate using smart contracts and Solidity, guaranteed by the blockchain. So that really took us down the rabbit hole of Web3, I would say. And from there is when we decided, all right, it's actually insane to us that no one can deploy an L1 blockchain. You have to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to do that today. So with the mission and what we saw at a blockchain was a modern way of doing business where it can streamline a lot of things. It's a new type of database, creates brand new customer experiences. But so far in crypto, the killer app has been financial applications,
Yeah.
like for the capital markets. But what drew me to it was always the idea of, oh, can I apply blockchain to new innovative problems in the world to really move the needle in different areas of the world? So we pivoted into Gogopool alongside that mission, and then raised a big seed round and like a seed extension round, launched the token or launched the protocol about a year and a half ago, and here we are.
Nice. What's it like being part of something like YC Combinator?
So through the application process, I actually pivoted out of it.
Okay.
So I didn't end up going into Y Combinator because well, there's a bunch of reasons why, but it made more sense just to raise a round and like go for it yourself rather than being a part of an accelerator.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And did you always know, by the sound of it, you did, but did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like what kind of took you down that route rather than the let's get a job and
I never thought of it. I never knew what went into the label of being an entrepreneur or doing a startup. Like I never understood really what those characteristics are until now. Now I'm like 6 years into the game, and I can like, okay, here are the attributes. Here's why it makes sense, etc.
yeah,
But definitely looking back on it, my trajectory and kind of my personality type was definitely always taking me towards more kind of risk on ventures. Like I think that's for sure. Like as far as I can always remember, have always been doing something interesting, something more opportunistic.
nice, nice. And you think that that taking risk part, that's obviously a massive uh, it's a massive attribute that you have to have, I guess, if you're looking to launch a startup and looking to go into, especially in Web3 as well. It is a risk, right? It's a growing industry that
Yeah.
needs to take hold, I guess, in the more traditional world. But yeah, you think that that risk has obviously played a huge part in where you are now. Um, Anything else that's really comes to mind that thinks, you know what, if I didn't develop this attribute or I didn't have this personality type, I probably wouldn't have launched the
The
company.
one thing that stands out to me, like a kind of a learning, is like you've got to be really comfortable drinking from a faucet of information. Like
God,
the rate of information flow is quite incredible, and just by nature of doing a startup, you're probably entering a relatively new domain. Especially for me as a young person, like I'm 22, what experience do I have in recruiting, right?
yeah,
So for me to jump into the recruiting industry, it was like a solid 12 months of just complete immersion and visiting the local recruiters and the staffing agencies and HR shops near me, like doing video interviews with everybody, like really getting into it. And then, yeah, but I think it's the same as this also probably suits my personality as well, but definitely I'm very mission driven. So once I see the world as it should be, I think it's like that's the North Star. You know what I mean? So I
mm,
think like it definitely takes a level of focus and just being able to like stand in a freaking waterfall of information, try to metabolize faster than all your competitors and try to metabolize faster than the rest of the industry.
yeah, it's a tricky skill, especially in Web3 as well. I mean, you spend long enough on crypto Twitter and you get
Uh,
down a
it's
rabbit hole of all sorts of stuff. It's a bit of a
it's
mess
impossible.
sometimes.
Completely impossible. The only tactic I have for Web3 is I actually I started this a while ago, but I actually just don't read any news and I barely read Twitter. And
Okay,
then what my tactic has been is I just have a really good circle around me. So when something does happen, like XRP does a 5x or something like in the last 25 days, like I hear about it. You know what I mean? So I definitely rely on my social network because people float things just all the time because it's always interesting, right? And everyone's always plugged into an information faucet. But yeah, I just think it's completely impossible to try to keep up with crypto. There's
mm.
just no way.
I was having an interesting conversation the other day. From someone who's super well connected in Web3 and been successful on a number of projects. And he was saying that actually your network is everything in Web3 to really understand what's going on in the industry and to really help you thrive in Web3 as an industry. Uh, your network is key. Like who you surround yourself with, the types of information that you can help each other out with, and stuff. It's quite an unusual thing, really, 'cause it doesn't really work like that in Web 2. Like, no one shares information quite as much as they do in Web 3. Um,
That, I think that's true. I think there's some truth to that. I think in Web 2 though, like your network is your net worth and all that. But I just think Web 3 and also AI, like these are the two most competitive industries in the world right now. Like there is no other two more prosperous industries where a person can like get started and really make their way with it. Um, and I think in industries like this, it's definitely like, man, everyone is looking for an edge, right? If you can just keep helping people, people start helping you. I think that's kind of like
yeah,
the root principle there. But because it definitely like in recruiting, um, or even the content creator business, also growing industry, but not nearly as fast growing as Web3. So even like the slower the industry is to a certain extent, the slower the rate of information is as well. So there's not as much working together because you kind of don't. People aren't really incentivized to do that. But in
yeah,
Web3 and AI, like these are the two industries, man. Where if you can, if you can work really hard, you're really smart, really passionate about what you're doing for a long period of time, 4, 5, 8, 10 years, like you can definitely move mountains still. Like the whole industry is still being defined.
mm,
Best idea wins.
yeah, you're right. How did you find working with recruiters and diving into that industry?
I like some of them. Some of them are really good. I've learned so much about salesmanship from my time at
Okay,
DeepHire. I guess just one of my personal edges coming into crypto, where everyone is all, oh, maybe something will happen. Let me send a DM to somebody, and maybe I'll get a call. Or maybe I'll be able to show them a demo or pitch them. But versus in recruiting, it's like definitely the best salespeople but also the worst salespeople. I mean, they got the whole spectrum.
Yeah,
Um, but I've learned a lot about what it takes to build a real business that has actual cash flow that you can build just by smiling and dialing, right? Like to a certain
yeah,
extent, you play that formula, you can build yourself a nice recruiting business. And I think crypto could use more of that. Crypto right now is very um, the speculative premium is really really high still in crypto.
for sure. Yeah, recruitment is definitely full of some characters. That's for sure. The recruitment industry.
For sure,
It's
man.
yeah, it's an interesting place to be.
Yeah.
It's Stephen, could you talk us through what this is going to be quite a vague question, I think, but could you talk us through what a day in the life of a co-founder looks like? I know that is super vague, but I think Web3 is such an entrepreneurial industry, right? And most people I talk to, I'd say three-quarters of people I talk to would love to start and run their own projects one day. Um,
Okay.
but I don't know if that many people really understand uh, the stresses or like what it takes to be a co-founder and like the stuff that you actually have to do that you maybe didn't think that you'd be getting involved in and this kind of stuff. Could you just paint a picture of like what it means to be a co-founder or what a day in the life of a co-founder looks like?
Yeah, I can preface a little bit too, and I can open up my calendar and just talking about like today and tomorrow, or even like Friday.
Okay.
But I think definitely a lot like being a founder is so glamorized, man. Um, I definitely don't think most people should be. Like, I don't think three-quarters of people you talk to should be founders, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean they shouldn't try,
Yeah.
but like to do it, man, it's a 10 to 20-year game. I think most people just aren't ready for that level of dedication and hard work and rigor. Um,
Okay.
but there's definitely like upsides to it too. I mean, the independence and freedom is completely unparalleled if you're good at what you do, right? If you don't have a prosperous startup business and you don't have investors and you don't have a good network and you're not like in something that's growing, then very tough. Like for Deep Hire, that first startup, the last year, like around COVID, for 12 months during COVID, I mean, that was just brutal, man. I was getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And then for a stretch of a month and a half, it was 3 to 4 hours of sleep per week. Like it was
Wow.
just insane trying to keep the lights on during COVID when the whole, like, because I don't know if you were doing recruiting back then, but the whole industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
80-90% shut down within the first month. Um, so that's tough. So that's the downside of being a founder. But I guess average day of a life to like for me right now is I'm talking to you after this, doing a fundraising stand up. After that, have a sales stand up. After that, one of our bigger BD deals. After that, doing like PR planning and media planning or reviewing progress for last week. Then a couple more BD calls. Then I'm flying to Miami for this conference. And then through all of this, I'll be on Telegram and Slack and Signal, DMing people, responding to questions, asking people questions, double checking on things, um, like looking at the Twitter posts people send me, like DMing, doing some high value outbound. So I'd say it's pretty sporadic, but the only constant thing is every morning I have my routine, every night I have my routine, and then a piece of my morning routine is to set what are the 3 things that need to get done today just to move the ball forward. Outside of that, I think it's largely my day is largely dictated by what the business needs and where we're trying to push. Like for 2 weeks, I was extremely deep into product, and 2 weeks extremely deep into BD. Right, it can shift around pretty quickly.
Do you tend to find that it happens like that? So rather than it being small parts of everything all at once, it's right, what needs the most attention? I'm going to put my time into that. Do you flick between it in almost sprints in that kind of way, or do you just think that that just happened to work out like that those particular weeks?
I don't know what other people do, but for me, I'm definitely like a lion. It's like hardcore sprint for 2 3 days, even for like 1 hour. I do like these 1 hour long work sessions, um, and then there are periods of time where I'm playing a video game, I'm laying on the couch staring at the ceiling, like I'm just thinking about stuff, I'm writing, I'm walking outside, like I'm just not doing anything. I'm being like the laziest person ever. But knowing like I think in this game, especially in crypto, actually specifically for crypto, the business model of crypto is so cyclical, so macro driven. Like right now we're in an upcycle, so now's the time to get the deals done. Now's the time to push everything forward. Now's the time to do that fundraising round you've been thinking of. Now's the time to like everything you've been working on before. It's like, all right, make everything public facing, make as much noise as possible. Like let's fucking go.
Yeah,
Let's commercialize. But for the past, what would you say, like 12 months? I would say maybe, I guess like Q1 had a little bit of a pop. Maybe
yeah,
Q4 last year also had a bit of a pop, but like everyone could tell, at least most people could tell it wasn't an extended thing. There's no like fundamental driven kind of movement around it. So it's like, you had like 3 months of hard work there, but in these like down cycles, I think it's really important to just be very intentional. I think most people don't think enough about what they should be working on. Most people just react, and they do, and they're doom scrolling Twitter. They see, oh, AI agents are popping off right now. What's my AI play? What's my AI strategy?
mm,
But I think that's a trap. Meaningful work doesn't actually get done. Like took Elon what 7 years to launch a rocket to space successfully.
yeah.
Like that doesn't happen if he's footing
Here, there,
around
and
all the
everywhere.
time.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So yeah, have a plan and then execute it. I guess not get sidetracked by all these different things that are happening.
Yeah, and just be like, if there's any universal advice, is just be present, be as mindful as you can all the time, because the plan changes quickly just based off of what's happening. Right? It's like the you're in the middle of an ocean and there are waves going everywhere, and you just gotta stay above it and spot the opportunities. Like where do I submarine it? Where do I dig in? Where do I direct all my attention and focus? What's the opportunity?
For sure. And could you talk us through your goals when you started Multisig Labs? Did you have that
Yeah. So,
that idea in mind, like that intention, that focus when you first launched?
so when I started Multisig Labs before launch, the mission, the North Star was to create a modern way of doing business, like enable all these Web2 companies, Web2 startups to use blockchain, use Web3 to enhance their offerings, do something novel. So when we actually went to launch Gogopool, the first protocol, then it was we launched in a bad market. Like it was like FTX crashed, Luna had crashed. 3 months after that, maybe 4 months after that, we launched our token and launched the protocol and started getting TVL and first value minutes. So it was pretty uh, small and compounding growth for the first, I don't know, 6 months, I think.
Was
April
that like
to
start of
November.
23? Start of 23
This,
sort of time, was it?
I think so. It's been about a year and a half. Oh, there's another thing about the life of a founder, dude. I don't know if this is other people or just me, but my sense of time is completely gone. Like, I think in terms of 90-day cycles and 7-day cycles. So it was probably about like 6 quarters ago
Okay.
we launched Global. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so I think that was because I think yeah, FTX, well, Luna happened, then FTX happened. That was just as I'd launched Unveil, the recruitment business, actually. So I think at
That's a
that
good
point,
time.
I was thinking, cool, yeah, what am I doing? Why have I done this?
Well, a
Um,
lot of people that became unemployed. So a lot of
yeah,
people looking
true,
for work.
true. A lot of people looking for work, not so many projects hiring at that point,
Sure. Yeah.
which is the tricky thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I know what you mean. It was a yeah, fairly testing time, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely testing time. And then you had the whole, I don't know how much you follow US politics, but you had the whole Elizabeth Warren kind of anti crypto army,
Mm,
Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, like all this regulatory
yeah,
pressure just coming out of seemingly nowhere, attacking fintech and crypto, which I guess now is coming more to light, all this debanking stuff that's been happening. So it was definitely like a spooky time. It was definitely challenging, but what we really learned out of it was to get extremely focused. Like I guess I've been talking a lot about focus right now with you, but getting really, really focused on making sure what you're building is it actually what people want. Like, does this token actually fulfill utility? Are you actually solving a problem for people? What are the blockers to making this thing grow humongous? That's where I spend a lot of my extra cycle, like mental cycles, thinking about. But during that time, like it was good. And like now, it's getting really noisy. I don't know how it is for you in your business, but for me and mine, like, dude, I'm getting hit up maybe every day, like, Steven, what's your AI agent play? Steven, are you launching some AI agent thing? Steven, check this out. Steven, what are you guys doing with that? Like, have you seen this? Have you look at Ripple? Look at Solana. Like, where's your meme coin launchpad? Maybe you should do one for L1s. There's all sorts of ideas. And in the bull run, everyone seems like a genius because everything seems to always work and everything seems to be an overnight success. But like definitely during like I kind of miss it a little bit, maybe in like a Stockholm syndrome way. But during the bear market, it was very focused. There's nothing else to do, and you also had to survive. And make sure you're actually being decentralized. You're actually creating utility. You're actually creating genuine customers, or like solving a problem that people have, and then you can like monetize or commercialize it in some way. So it's been a lot of fun so far. We've been learning a ton.
I was going to say, how do you learn how to dive into all those topics? Because that's quite varied. You've got to learn marketing and product and the tech side of it. Obviously, yeah,
Forget about it, dude. Security, decentralization, capital markets. Capital markets branches out into like four different things when you think about launching a token or how to like reach an audience with your token so people actually use it. Sales, BD, hiring, recruiting. Yeah, forget about it. I don't know. How do I learn about it?
yeah,
I guess I just dive in and incrementally. Right? Like, okay, I had to hire the best head of ecosystem I could find. This was like 30 days ago. And it was
okay,
like, that was my only focus for about a week. It's like, all right, what should I look for? What do I need? What gaps do I have on the team? Who do I know? Let me hit up all these people. Um, but I think, yeah, not to say that was my only focus. I think I probably had like two other initiatives at the time, but it was like 80% of my attention was on that.
that's yeah. Because I think again, like being able to learn all these skills is key to success, right? As a co-founder, as a founder of a project, yeah, you can start to build a team around you and start to offload some of these tasks and responsibilities onto those guys. But in the end of it, the responsibility sits with you, and you have to know about the things that your team are doing and building and stuff, right? You can't rely on others all the time. So yeah, I think that's quite a key thing is for people to understand is either how they can do it or where they can go. Is it just trial and error? Do you reach out to mentors and ask their advice and that kind of stuff? Is there anything that particularly stands out to you, or do you think it was just trial and error, getting stuck in, and necessity forces you to learn it?
That's a good question. What does it look like when I dive into something new? Um, it's a lot of energy. I throw a ton of energy at it and just don't give up. Never ever give up. Building momentum. I focus a lot on creating momentum. Momentum is probably the biggest lever I have. So how that gets applied here is I'm diving in. I gotta hire someone. How do I hire? What interview questions do I ask? Like how do I set everything up? And it's just little tiny things like in 15-minute chunks. Try and learn about different concepts. How have other people done it? Like hit up my co-founder. He's hired 2,000 people in his previous
Okay.
enterprises. Like asking him, right? Like looking for mentors. Just it's really looking at whatever resources I have around me. Like take a quick stock, 15 minutes, what I have around me, what cards do I have in my hand, and then just get in at it, and then go and deploy that tactic or whatever. And I, through that, never expect that one thing's a silver bullet because I would say it never is. But knowing that things will take like four times longer probably than you think, or do you think it'll
Yeah.
take you maybe 4 days to get really good at tokenomics, probably playing for 16 days, 20
Okay.
days. If you think it'll take like 2 weeks to fundraise, playing for 8 weeks. I think
Okay.
that high level heuristic has held true. And then just building that momentum of what resources do I have? How do I get more resources? How do I use the resources effectively to learn?
For sure. No, that's good advice. And is there anything that you could make people aware of before launching their own project? Like what do founders say if someone comes to you and says, right, I'm launching or I want to launch a product or a project in this particular area of the industry. What advice do you have for me? What do I need to be aware of? Again, probably quite a vague question. Um, but is there anything that really jumps out to you? Maybe stuff that surprised you, perhaps. Um,
I would say one thing. So I'm not a capital markets guy. I'm not a trader. Like
okay,
I hold three tokens. You know what I mean? Like I just don't trade. It's just not me. I'm a very much a product guy, like classic kind of Web 2, kind of Silicon Valley style of training of building things. And so I've learned one thing that was surprising to me is I've learned, and Web 2 guys try to like hit on this idea, but I've learned a lot from my trader friends now in crypto. The idea of like having an edge. Like if you're going to make a trade, you can do something. Like, what's your specific edge? Why are you going to spend time in the parachain ecosystem? Like, do you know someone? Do you know something people don't? Like, why does this make sense for you? There's so many opportunities. I would say the same thing for people thinking about starting a company is to really think critically and test your edge. It's like, okay, you want to like build a DeFi app so that'll like outcompete Aave. It's like, okay, what do you got? Do you have like a best friend who's the previous co-founder of Aave or something? Are you an expert in it? Someone you know an expert? Like, do you know how to get TVL really quickly? Do you understand the levers of the business in a way somebody doesn't? Do you have some experience you can innovate on and remix to apply it to the borrow lend kind of market? So I think this idea of having an edge is really important. It's not something I wish I respected it more, and with DeepHire, because with DeepHire we are this first recruiting company. We like, all right, we're doing a startup. We looked at the numbers of okay, what's a really big market that's growing pragmatically, and there's a lot of customers, and we can fail and kind of iterate many times very very quickly because we're not going to like burn through 10 customers if there's only 10 people in the market.
Yeah.
Um, but the idea of this edge, like we didn't have an edge, so it took us a year to build the edge, I would say.
Okay.
So that was, it's definitely respect the need for an edge, and then people call it founder market fit. Like as a founder, are you a good fit for the market? Are you the type of person who can bring in this market with this product for this problem or opportunity space? Like, are you specifically uniquely qualified for that somehow? I would say that's something that wish I respected a little bit more, and I would definitely encourage other people as well to kind of like go through
I like
that
that.
exercise.
I like that. That's a good way of. I like that explanation. The founder market fit. I never thought about it like that before. About how you need to actually work out if you're a good fit for that market. You might have the best product in the world, but if you're not the best person to build that business or sell into that market or build that network and build those connections, then yeah, maybe it won't work. Do you think that's a
Well,
rule?
I think
Do you
it
think that's
probably
something you
could
need to
work,
follow?
but just plan for a solid 12 to 18 months of developing that founder market fit, So then if you really care about the problem, you're willing to invest 12, 18 months into it, then like, yeah, man, bully to you. Go for it. I'll cheer you on. But it's definitely non-trivial, in those 12 to 18 months for something that you're uniquely qualified for, you could have built a unicorn in crypto. You could have
Yeah,
had 3 IPOs in that time frame. You know,
yeah. What was your edge when you started Multisig?
I think I understand open source code really, really well. And what motivates people to use really existing, really big systems. I think that's a really big problem right now in crypto. Is that you have a humongous thing like Solana, and Solana is a siloed off ecosystem. There's zero incentive for someone like a Monad or Bearchain to do anything with the Solana ecosystem other than a vampire attack. Like I think that's just that shouldn't be the way crypto works, because crypto is already all this Lego blocky, permissionless kind of smart contract protocols that can fit together and interoperate permissionlessly. But yet these ecosystems aren't modular. You can't have Solana work with Monad or with Avalanche. It's just they view it as PvP and competitive. So I think my edge in starting multisig is understanding what those ecosystem dynamics are, and we're running this experiment right now inside of Avalanche, where they're an L1 launching framework, so you can launch many L1s really quickly on Avalanche. But even in Avalanche, there's no incentive for these people to plug into each other and work with each other. So we're running this first experiment, and we'll start going live Q1, Q2, of how do you get these ecosystems to build off each other and get aligned so that they can share users, liquidity, and builders in a way that benefits everybody. So that I think that's our edge. That's what I'm really excited by.
Nice. Are you able to share how you're building that mindset into the ecosystem that you're creating?
Well, and crypto is a beautiful thing, man. It runs off of incentives. So what it's going to look like is a new protocol launch.
Okay.
It's a new project that still keeps everything aligned with Gogopool and everything that we've built and all of our existing investors. But it's definitely a new protocol launch with an interesting incentive system that will be modular and can fit into all these other ecosystems, so that people can get sustainable sources of yield, so that they can attract sustainable amount of users and builders over time, versus their temporary grant programs that is and like the really huge airdrops that don't do anything. So this is an alternative to these type of go-to-market strategies in a way that can start unifying and aggregating, connecting all these ecosystems.
Interesting. And that's been launched Q1, Q2 next year. Has that got a set date yet of when you're announcing that and launching that?
No, hopefully
Okay.
within, when is this airing? Do you know?
There when, sorry? This
2 months.
airing. I would say 2 months, maybe.
Two
Six
months from
weeks.
now? Okay,
Six
then yeah,
six weeks.
it'll be launched by then probably. Yeah,
Okay.
or at least
Nice.
announced and yeah,
Nice. That's pretty yeah, pretty soon. Mid-Jan.
yeah, mid-Jan.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, we're busy,
That's
man.
cool.
This is why we're going to Miami.
Oh, is it? Are you heading there to talk about the protocol and you raising on that protocol at the moment?
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, any just to go along with that with the edge, are there any challenges that really surprised you throughout your journey in Web3, like launching the company in the industry and launching projects and stuff?
I think challenges are the biggest challenge by far is the information asymmetry that happens when you're a founder, you're like a really good product founder, like Silicon Valley again, like hearkening to kind of the classic kind of view of a founder. And then now you're launching a protocol in crypto, which is extremely capital markets driven. Like so, the capital markets are running crypto still today. Um, and I think as a founder, when you launch a token, there's this whole supply chain of people who want to help you launch a token, but founders don't really understand. Oh, when I launch a token, it has my actual customers, which is everyone is focused on, like the product market fit. But this token also has got a capital market fit. Like who's going to buy the token, who's going to trade it, why are they interested in the mission, vision, like how do you build a community around this protocol and this idea that you think should exist in the world. I think, and then there's just a lot of misaligned actors that want to help you launch a token, but they're going to profit along the way, and you're probably not going to. So that was very challenging when we were thinking through how do I launch Gogopool, how do I launch GGP tokens? Like, okay, well, shit. Turns out there's 7 different vendors that I should probably work with, ranging from legal market making, such as exchanges, launch pads, like auditors, like just fucking tokenomic advisors, other protocols, other partners. Um, so it's definitely tough. Um, I think it's definitely tough in the beginning, especially if you just don't understand capital markets and how to think through an asset in a liquid market or trying to build a liquid market around an asset. I think that's really tough to do to create a market around something new, especially if you don't have an edge in it.
You're able to give us a crash course on capital markets and what that means if someone has no grounding whatsoever.
Yeah, can I? So a capital market forms whenever people want to buy and sell something. So you think of like the Wall Street, well, Apple stock has its
Mhm.
own capital market. Wall Street itself is a capital market. You think of lumber, lumber is being shipped and exported all around the world. That's a capital market. Just because it's
Okay.
people trading. It's like the greatest human innovation is finance. You know, now there's a peaceful way to coordinate and incentivize people. Where previous to this global financial system, you know, you do have pointy sticks and sharp rocks, and it can get very brutal. So finance is a beautiful thing, and capital markets is just a way of people trading something so they can coordinate and work with each other. And then there's all sorts of nooks and crannies where people can build relatively large businesses out of a simple task of I'm in Russia and I want to move some oil over to Germany, and then it's like okay, there's a lot of people involved in that, and each one of the steps in that supply chain usually has its own capital market. Like there are people
Mhm.
trading the lumber used to build the pipes, people trading the welding companies who are used to actually create the pipe. There's people who are like making a market around who's going to get chosen to build the pipe, right? So anywhere where people are trying to buy and sell and work together to achieve some sort of goal, that's a capital market. And then in crypto, when you think of a financial market, you're not trading real assets or goods and services. You're just trading money around. So like Pendle, it's interest rate swapping. It's like, okay, this thing is going to give me 5% APY. This thing's going to give me 10% APY. But they're two different assets, two different risk profiles. So there should be a market where people can just like swap those interest rates really, really nicely. That's something that Pendle solves. And then you can sort of like DeFi enables more unique use cases around creating capital markets. So that's why it's really interesting. And launching a token is its own capital market. It's like, why is XRP doing what it's doing? Why is Cardano, the ADA token, doing what it's doing? Like, that's its own game. That's its own capital market right there.
As a founder, do you need to, as a founder in Web3 specifically, do you need to know about capital markets? Do you think there's ever a time when you can uh, launch a project without really understanding?
I don't know. Well, the crypto's Web3's biggest killer app has been a capital market, a
Yeah.
permissionless, global, always on capital market. So if you're launching something in blockchain without tapping into that, or at least having a clear line of sight of how I'm going to tap into this really weird, new, novel primitive, like, dude, I don't know what you're doing. If you're trying to make a competitor to Airbnb and you try and use the blockchain to do that, and you're not going to issue a token to with a way to incentivize capital markets to help the whole thing really scale, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? How are you going to compete with Airbnb? Like, you're not.
Yeah.
They have way more scale. But if you have a token in a capital market, that's something Airbnb can never touch. Like, that's a very serious differentiator that should be investigated very thoroughly. You should probably become an expert in the capital markets around kind of Airbnb lookalikes.
That's cool. So, as say if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, right, I want to launch a project. They now know they need to understand capital markets. They need to find their product market fit and founder market fit over time. Anything else you think someone really needs to do or have around them to set their project up for success?
Um, I think most things branch off of that. Like, if you have your edge, then you'll know. Am I the guy with a nice smile and a firm handshake, or am I the guy with 10 fingers that can create amazing code? Right. So then finding a partner to complement whatever skill set you have,
Yeah.
definitely start there. It's really tough to do this, really tough to walk this journey for 8 years as a solo founder. I think,
Mm.
like, I would not want to do that. That's really tough. Respect the people that do, but I just think that's tough. And then, yeah, I mean, just getting at it, start iterating, start small, and really stay focused on what people want, and try to stay very mindful through the whole process so you can always work on the highest leverage activities. I think maybe that's the third thing, is spend a little bit more time thinking about what you should be doing than what you actually are doing.
Okay, that's a good idea. So you can be proactive rather than reactive to stuff that's happening in the business.
Oh, for sure. If you're fully reactive, dude, think of the founder of Cardano right now, not to rag on them too much. But if he was like a fully reactive person, if I were him, I'd be feeling like a freaking god on earth right now. Right? But
Mm.
it's all a social construct of a token price going up. And it's probably not very smart to feel extremely good when a stock price or a token price or a portfolio goes up, because you're going to feel really, really, really bad when that thing inevitably comes down. So it's probably way more worth it to just learn about capital markets and understand the first principles of what's going on.
Good advice. How this might be quite a tricky question. How do you find a co-founder, or how do you pick a co-founder? Because that's almost more difficult than choosing a wife, husband, partner. Do you know what I mean? That's a
Yeah.
tough thing. Any advice?
How I found one, I would say, for someone who doesn't know how to find one, I would say, all right, get really good at telling stories and trying to find one, because if you can find the skills you need to find a really good co-founder are the exact skills you need to then hire people, build a product, get customers, fundraise. It's the exact same storytelling ability. It's the exact same kind of like dog mentality and opportunistic mentality. It's the exact same thing. So how
Okay.
I found one was, I just knew that originally for Multisig Labs, for Gogopool, like, I had about 80% of our system kind of proof of concepted out. So like actual code built.
Mhm.
And we're missing one kernel for it. And then I was just scrolling through GitHub. So I found my
Yeah.
co-founder on GitHub. Turns out he was active on the Avalanche Discord. Turns out a week later, a really large Avalanche conference was happening. And then it just so turns out that I hit him up a week before the conference. We hopped on a call. I was like, yo, I really like your code. I think it could be really useful. Here's what I'm working on. What are you up to? Like, who are you as a person? Um, and then I was like, all right, like, let's meet up at the conference. You planning to go to the conference? He's like, no. It's like, all right, yeah, me neither, but let's do it and let's go meet the Avalanche community and see if we can work well together. So
Okay.
that's how I found my co-founder.
That's lucky that you found him like that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can
it's
imagine.
luck, but it's the same first principles, right? Know how to tell a story, know what the opportunity is, think really hard about what you need that you don't have,
Yeah.
know where to look for it, right? It's the exact same iterative loop, man. I can't stress that enough. It's the exact same loop as doing anything else. I've done that same loop 10,000 times now since we started the company, you know?
Just get really good at understanding that loop and implementing that loop.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And just practice all. Like if the person listening to this is really intent on becoming a founder, I would just get obsessive about it. Like just practice the loop, with your significant other. Like what do they need right now? Okay, let's test. Let's go. Let's tell a nice story about it and see if they actually need it. All right, we're done. Now go to the park. What does that stranger need? Let's see. Test. Go out there. Do it. Maybe all they need is a handshake. Maybe all they need is eye contact. Maybe all they need is a hug or a banana. I don't know. Just go figure it out.
Nice. And what about if someone doesn't want to be a founder? Uh, they want to build a good career, successful career for themselves in the industry. Um, any advice that you can share there on how you can maybe support founders in the industry or how you can set yourself up for success?
Man, I think just solve problems.
Okay.
That's the first principle. Solve problems in a very reliable way and with a good attitude. That's the first principle of how do you always become employable, no matter what industry you're working in. Um, for crypto specifically, it's just also open and permissionless. I would also depends on your personal situation. Are you trying to make an income so you can have an apartment this month, or are you trying to self actualize because you've already made some money and now you're looking for more meaning in your life? Um, so it can kind of get down, depends on the situation for that person, but like there's a lot of stuff in crypto. But yeah, the universal constant is just solve problems, good attitude, be reliable, and be a good teammate. Like help build other people up.
Do you have any advice? Uh, say if someone isn't in the industry yet, wants to get into the space. Say you're talking to a friend and they said, "Look, really want a job in Web3. Where do I start?" Any advice for someone to break into the industry? Because it can be quite difficult to get the experience working within a project without having worked in a project already. Because a lot of projects want people who've come from the industry already, and that's quite a difficult thing to do really and to get. It's quite a
Yeah.
difficult thing to find a project that are happy to take someone from Web 2 and let them come across and give them that time to learn how the industry works. Any advice if you're going to talk to a friend about how they could get into the industry?
If they're being very serious about it, I would say, "Oh, that's great. Let me help you. Got two bits of advice for you. One is really know who you're competing against for these jobs. I mean, you're competing against people who are so passionate. Like we have people on my team, dude. They just live in crypto. This is what they love, right? And it's a blessing that I'm able to work with them and they agree to work with me, right? That's who this new person is competing with. Someone who's on Twitter, not because it's a job, because it's fun, and they're actually curious about what this latest, remix of a Dex launch on fucking Solana is like, or what was Virtual's actually doing now on base, right? Like they're really in the weeds because they just love this shit. So that's the first thing. Then second thing is, with that being said, I would say like follow your curiosity because the only way to compete against that and the only way to have fun in this industry is if you start off with following your own curiosity. So for me, I was really interested in when I got started, I was very interested in like the root principles or the kernels of truth of what makes blockchain magical. Like where is that magic? But then I wanted to like see that magic in a piece of code. So I would zoom in. I would start at the top of like, okay, I'm in MetaMask and I'm gonna make a swap on Uniswap. So then what happens? All right, well, an RPC call happens and that goes to the validator node, which then gets put into the block building process, which then gets submitted to the block. Like, okay, cool. But even through that, like, who's running the smart contract code? Okay, even deeper into that, who's compiling the smart contract code? All right, deeper than that, where in the EVM, where in Geth or in RETH is this actually have? Like, what lines of code is running this stuff? So that's and then even the consensus, like, how does it talk to these other computers, how they work together? So to me, that was kind of my path was where I saw the magic. I was like, oh shit, like this is really powerful stuff, and it's not hard to do. It's cheap. It's actually really, really cheap to run a blockchain. Um, People just don't know what they want, so they gets really bloated, and then it becomes very expensive to run a blockchain. But it can become very, very cheap. Like the root components of it are dirt cheap, and that's where I was like, oh my god, if this magic could be exposed to any entrepreneur in the world, any builder just like me in the world, like that's when we're going to start seeing some wild and crazy new things. Like that's genuinely net new, as much as that's what's going to create the ChatGPT moment, as much as data analysis and kind of TensorFlow helped create ChatGPT today. Once deploying a blockchain is as cheap and easy as it was to do that with a private database, we're going to see some wild new ChatGPT like moments for crypto. So that's what really got me. And even now, I'm like thinking back, I was like, oh my god, that was a glorious 3 weeks of my life where all I was doing was like talking to my friend, meeting up with him, and like showing him the code. He would show me code, and we'd just dive in really deep. Um, but yeah, so I would, to this person, I would say, know who you're competing against, and then two is follow your curiosity and have the follow through to really dig in.
I like that.
And then
It's
the
good
job will
advice.
find you, honestly. And then the job will find you. It's really not that hard to get a job in crypto, I feel like. It's just tough to be qualified, I think, in
Yeah.
crypto.
I think
That's
that's
the
one of the
real.
beauties about the industry, though, right? Say if you're super passionate and you can show that you have that ability to learn and willingness to get stuck into it, then a lot of founders will give you the opportunity to work in roles that there are perhaps people that may be more qualified from like a skills and experience perspective,
Oh,
but
dude,
actually
I
the
hire
attitude and
people.
the
Yeah,
attitude
totally.
towards the job plays a massive part in this industry.
Huge. I hire people all the time. It's like, all right, this guy hasn't been in sales for 6 years. He doesn't really know much about sales, but my God, he's a dog. They're charismatic. They got a good smile, like, and is like very curious and actually wants to help people. Like, yeah, let's give him a shot. Give him a little project. Give him some tokens. Give him some cash. Like, let's see what happens. I do that all the time, dude. All the time.
That's good. That's yeah, as I said, like one of the things I love about the industry is you do have the ability to step into these roles. I think about it even from a marketing perspective, right? I see CMOs who've only been marketers for 2 years, something like this,
Yeah.
but they're just
Well,
amazing and amazing at getting into the depths of how people in Web3 think. 'Cause that's all they've known, for
yeah.
example. So they might think, obviously, a lot of Web3's marketing stuff's done on Twitter. A lot of it's organic and this kind of stuff, and KOLs and that side of it. So yeah, I look at it sometimes and I think, cool, yeah, that's crazy. You're in these positions and at such an early stage in your career where if someone who had been in a Web2 career for 20 years, then they might be like, right, I'm ready to make that step into that CMO role or that director of engineering role or that VP role. And in crypto
Yeah.
and Web3, people have only been there for 2, 3 years, but they're able to step into these roles, right? It's cool.
For
It's a
sure.
cool side of
Well,
the
the
industry.
opportunity is real, man. I mean, crypto, as we know, has been around since what, like early 2022, maybe mid to late 2021. So that means the most experienced person in the industry has got a 2.5 year head start. You
Yeah,
know, like that's not
it's not a lot, really.
not a lot, man. You go in recruiting, and you know this. When you go in recruiting, you're competing against people who've been doing this for 25 years. Like they
Mm.
just have a different level of the network. It accesses different opportunities. But in crypto, that sort of this was the other thing that you just made me think of earlier, of asking like what advice would I give, or what learnings do I have, is one, you can't to someone new starting out as a founder. So you have to really also respect, you can't cheat experience. You can't shortcut experience. So that dude who's been doing it, or that woman who's been doing it for 25 years in recruiting, it's like they're just gonna be better than you. You're gonna have to accept that. Like there might be some opportunities of certain things you're better than they are, and maybe there's new AI tooling that can like speed up your process more than them. But net, like they're just better at the game than you are. There's just no way to overcome that. But in crypto, that doesn't exist. Like to your point, you get a CMO who's been in the job for 2 years. It's like, okay, like dude, I like those odds. Like
Yeah,
I'll compete against that any day.
100%. Yeah, same. So what does the future hold then for you personally and also Multisig? You briefly touched on it, obviously new protocol, being launched in the new year, but long-term future, have you got that in mind? Have you thought that far ahead?
Well, long term future depends on how long we're talking, but I'm really addicted to this idea of creating a modern way of doing business for startups all over the world. Like, I just think if you're doing a startup today and you're not using a blockchain and thinking through a tokenized economy to kind of incentivize your PMF loops, use capital market fit as like a unique differentiator, and use the properties of a blockchain to really differentiate your product. Like, I think you're just going to be so far behind in what, 2 years, and let's see what happens with this new administration. But things are looking bullish and regulatory clarity, et cetera. Like Operation 2.0, there probably shouldn't be a 3.0 happening. So I would say it's like green pastures right now for builders coming into the space. And we see this every time. Like Trump's in office, regulatory clarity is coming. Bitcoin has risen. Like just there's a massive surge of builders coming into crypto right now, like a massive that people on Twitter don't know about because these people aren't tweeting, right? These people are nose to the grindstone. What product am I going to ship in 120 days, 90 days? And they're really fucking good at what they do. So what I'm really addicted to is long term is if we can get the majority of the startups running through kind of Y Combinator programs or foundry startups kind of programs, um, then if we can get the majority of them to think of blockchain technology as a competing alternative to a private database like a MongoDB, MySQL type thing, um, we're in a really good spot. Like that's what I want to upgrade that system so badly.
Nice. So knowing what you know now about technology, leadership, entrepreneurship, growing teams, what advice would you have for your younger self if you could go back to the start of your journey before you launched the company, before you started on that journey?
Um, I don't know if I would have listened to any advice back then, to be honest.
Okay.
I can't think of anything. The only thing I think of is probably advice around mindfulness, meditation, like to treat mental health as important as physical health. So I grew up
Okay.
Western, very much Western kind of philosophy thinking. So, you know, especially this was what, 2014, 2016? Like mental health
Mm.
wasn't really a thing. Um, but I would say that's, you gotta have as much stamina with your mental as you do with the physical for this game. So I'd probably try to like just focus on that just to get one tiny win with me back then. But yeah, back then I really don't think I'd have listened to much advice. Um, I mean, maybe about fundraising, maybe I would have, but I don't know. Is that a bad answer? I'm not sure.
No, not at all. No, not at all. That's all good. But Stephen, thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat today. Thanks for sharing your journey and sharing your advice. I think there's a lot there that people can take away and implement, and hopefully they do listen to some advice if they're looking to get into the Web3 space. Um, but if anyone's interested, they want to find out more about Multisig Labs, about what you guys are doing, are they able to reach out on Twitter? Do you have communities on Telegram or Discord, anything like that they can become a part of and learn more?
Have communities on Telegram, Discord. Probably the best way is Twitter, though. STVNGTS. That's me on Twitter, x.com/Stephen Gates without the vowels. And then Gogopool with an underscore at the end of it. Gogopool underscore on Twitter. Those are the two best ways to reach me and to stay up to date about the company.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, thank you very much for your time and good luck at the conference.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time with
Thanks,
me.
man.